Hey everyone, welcome back to Random Side Quest. Oh, I think we're live now. Excellent. So, everybody, welcome to Random Side Quest. And yeah, let me know if the audio is coming through okay. This is the first time I'm using the new mic setup, so very excited about that. At the time of this recording, where I am right now, it is April 18th, and I have not played any Burning Shores as of this point. So, at least from my part, I won't be able to offer any spoilers. I kind of want this to be a spoiler-free stream. Um, in addition with that, I am looking forward to playing quite a bit, but I also have kind of stayed away from any of the um, stuff as far as like early access stuff. I know PlayStation Access did like an hour of gameplay or something like that. I haven't watched that. Along with that, like I said, I've been trying to avoid any kind of spoilers for those people who are able to play when their time zones have kind of been unlocked for them, which kudos to you guys. But overall, yeah, I am here to talk about some Burning Shore stuff and kind of our speculations, what we want to see, everything like that. I am in for all of it. Let's see here. Let's just make sure all my settings are correct. Yeah, comment in the chat. Let me know what's going on with everybody. Um, but yeah, just really happy to see that we are basically here. We are basically uh, with the Burning Shores as we speak, which is pretty awesome. Um, let's see here. Yeah, just let me know if we are able to. Oh, nice, Thomas. Thank you very much for letting me know that the audio is all good. Like I said, I was in a bind the other day when the launch trailer for Forbidden West dropped because my microphone that I had been using for a really long time broke, and that was just it was all bad. And I kind of had to limp that thing to the finish line, but thanks to some good suggestions from Noxious Asp and Lasers, um, we are now here, and I'm very excited about the new mic setup actually. But I'm glad to hear that the audio is coming through clean. Um, so yeah, I am also it's an exciting thing, but I also know for a lot of Horizon fans today might be a little bittersweet because obviously some of us will not be able to play Burning Shores, being that it is a PS5 exclusive. Kind of want to be on here chatting for maybe like an hour or so and seeing what everybody's up to. Wanted to do this a little bit earlier for our folks that are across the pond. I know sometimes when I stream a little bit later, things just kind of go too late for them and they need to go to bed because they have lives and they can't just stay up the whole time. And but outside of that, I hope everybody's doing well. I want to know what you guys are most interested in when it comes to Burning Shores stuff. Obviously excited. It's been a long time coming. Over a year since the release of the main game. All kinds of stuff that I am wanting to dive into. Hopefully get some more answers concerning the Quen. And yeah, Hannah, I'm right there with you. I'm so happy that we're seeing Gildan again. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler unless you haven't seen the launch trailer, which we got our first glimpse of Gildan. Hopefully we'll get to see Bryn. We got one of the two confirmed. Hopefully we'll be getting more of those, and it'll all be very exciting. What mysteries are you hoping are solved in the Burning Shores? I know a lot of people are speculating that we might get some stuff on Vast Silver. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. Obviously, I'm very hopeful for what's in the DLC. The Frozen Wilds is perhaps my favorite part of the Zero Dawn game, as controversial as that might be. But I'm very excited to see what exactly are the capabilities that are being unlocked just by having this thing be associated with the PS5 exclusively. But along with that, yeah, it seems like people are also excited about that. I'm very excited to learn more about the Quen. One of the mysteries that I hope is revealed with the DLC is that we get an official confirmation for where their homeland is. There's a lot of speculation as far as maybe it's somewhere in Asia. But along with that, I think that we might be looking at getting some more input on their hierarchy, their structure, maybe the identity of the Quen Emperor. All that stuff that we didn't get, if it's kind of building off the model of Frozen Wilds, where we got a kind of an introduction to the Banuk in Zero Dawn, and that really fleshed out what we could expect to see. And along with that, also seeing kind of what else there is to know about them, because all the little details about the tribes that I really enjoy. I'm not sure about you guys. I think the only tribe that we really haven't gotten to see or I'd love to see more of, because we haven't been to the claim, would be the Osram. I don't think that's going to be happening in this DLC, obviously. But more Quen. I know some people want to see a new tribe. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But along with that, obviously the fight with the Horus is going to be insane. I know some people are kind of wondering if Seika might be a love interest for Aloy, just judging by like the vibe of things. I think that would be kind of odd to introduce like a major love interest in a DLC that not everybody gets to play. So I would say that's one of my big kind of hesitations when it comes to kind of seeing what comes next for Aloy and her growth and development. But it seems like from at least the interview that we saw with Ashley Birch, that Gorilla came out with the behind-the-scenes mocap one, it might come off as a little bit more adversarial than it was friendly in the beginning, because Aloy struggles with interpersonal communication quite a bit. But along with that, I am interested to see kind of how that dynamic works, because it seems like Seika is very capable. And another thing that I noticed about her that I thought was interesting, because what we know so far, like I said, I haven't played any of the DLC yet, is that she's supposed to be a Quen Marine, a warrior, but she also can be seen with what appears to be a focus, which should be, at least from what we've been told as of now, a diviner thing. Not everybody who is among the Quen has the privilege to use a focus, let alone have one on an expedition. So I wonder if she either took one from a diviner that perished when the fleet ran aground in the burning shores or not. But I found that interesting. I didn't put that in my breakdown, principally because I noticed it after the fact. That's what happens when you're trying to put out videos quickly. But I did think that was really interesting. Thomas said, excited about new machines. Always, always, always. Anything that Hephaestus is up to, especially now that it has been exposed to the printing matrix of Far Zenith, right? No really telling what it could be capable of now. Even though it doesn't have access to the facilities, it's been kind of touched by that knowledge. So we could see variants of machines far different than what we've seen before. That could be harnessing nanotech. That could be, it's really, really interesting. I can't wait to dive in. But like I said, where I am right now, it is the 18th. And I'm just really, really stoked to see kind of what comes next. I know that they were talking a little bit about the clouds and the kind of using those as a interactive terrain feature, which I thought was really, really cool. And the footage that I saw originally is pretty nuts as far as what the PS5 is capable of. Because I always have to remind myself, because I played through Forbidden West on the PS5. I was lucky enough to get one. And as far as like the performance was always impressive. So I'm wondering what this next kind of chapter is going to be when, for better or worse, you don't have to program to the PS4. As far as what new machines we might be able to expect to see, I'm not sure. I've always been hopeful, especially with the whole aquatic nature that the second game has taken on. I've been really waiting for a whale shark machine for some time. I've wanted it. I need it. I think it would work really well into the canon of Zero Dawn. You have basically a massive purifier that you would need, or at least Poseidon would need, to start really detoxifying all the damage that the Pharaoh swarm did to the oceans. So all of that is, really something that I would like to take a peek at. Outside of Burning Shores for a second, I've been really enjoying our live streams of Zero Dawn. We've done one of them so far. We're going to be doing another one this month. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check out our channel memberships. We're having a great time over there, and it's so crazy to go back and revisit that game through the lens of having played Forbidden West, and I'm sure it's only going to be even expanded on when we're playing through Burning Shores. It's going to be really cool. As someone who's hydrophobic, the underwater parts of the game always make me anxious, so I'm hoping the water wing will help with that. Yeah, right? That's really crazy, too, the fact that they didn't just go with an aquatic mount, but they decided to pair that with a flying mount. So I'm really interested to see how the mechanics of that end up working out. Obviously, it looks super smooth, but just transitioning from sky to sea seamlessly, and then maybe feeling a little bit more empowered because maybe you can outrun things. You don't just have to hide from things. Because I thought they took some good first steps into the underwater exploration. I'm really interested to see how they expand it, because it seems like they are expanding all manner of mechanics as well with the kind of new, I don't want to say aerial combat, but the more acrobatic combat where you can use your pullcaster to attach you to machines and you can strike them and create those vulnerable points, and then kind of take advantage of that, making a whole different kind of fighting style that we didn't have before. I think that'd be pretty awesome. But yeah, I'm big on getting a whale shark machine in there as well. I think that would be super awesome. But yeah, as far as like Burning Shore stuff, I'm going to start playing as soon as I am able. I was checking the kind of pre-order countdown clock in my region, and I think we still have about 12 hours or something along those lines. So, for those of you who are already playing it, I'm sure it is just super, super cool. And I'm wondering kind of like, what is the first thing within the Burning Shores as far as landmarks go that you would be most excited to see? Obviously, we're in Los Angeles, a lot of iconic places there. We've seen the Hollywood sign. I'd love to see the Hollywood Bowl. We've already seen Santa Monica Pier and the Capitol Records building, along with the Griffith Observatory. So, and one thing that I really, really piqued my interest in the launch trailer was that still of that person surrounded by dinosaurs. That is the thing that honestly captivated my imagination the most, because yes, you're kind of in Hollywood, so you could have some kind of entertainment aspect there. I'm wondering if there's some kind of VR experience that could be happening there. Was there some way that the people of the 21st century were able to bring back dinosaurs in some way? All that stuff is pretty wild. But yeah, and now we're incredibly close, and some people are already starting to dive in there. But as far as like Los Angeles is concerned, the seismic activity I think is wild. If the Horizon series DLCs are known for anything, apparently volcanoes are now the through line. If the third game doesn't have a DLC with a volcano in it, I will be disappointed. Yeah, Brontosaurus would be really cool there, Thomas. We kind of get that a little bit with the tall neck, but if there was another kind of machine that mimicked that, because they actually talk about it being more similar to a giraffe as far as the game guide goes, even though I think we all see it and we are all just like Jurassic Park for sure. But it's a really exciting time for Horizon. We got Call of the Mountain recently, which was surprisingly good. And I only say surprisingly because I'm not a VR person, but I had a ton of fun playing Call of the Mountain. I didn't get too motion sick. My body adjusted pretty quickly. We got the DLC coming up. here incredibly shortly. I know there's like a multiplayer game that is in the works, so all that is really cool. Hannah says, if you told me that Ted Faro made his own Jurassic Park, I would not be at all surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. He seems like that kind of guy. I remember coming across that data point where it essentially talks about Ted Faro just wanting to buy the Tower of London so he could put it in Salt Lake City. That one made me laugh quite a bit. That was pretty funny. But as far as just like doing things just because he can, that seems like a very, very Ted Faro thing to do. And then along with that, it just seems like any of the old world stuff is just super. It's always been super interesting to me, and finding the Easter eggs too, where if you look at Zero Dawn and the sport that they describe that they play in basically the old football stadiums, that was just a whole reference to their other kind of early endeavor into VR, which was Rigs. And Rigs, you can see the logo on the Denver stadium, which is pretty funny. So just kind of seeing what other Easter eggs Guerrilla decides to sneak in there is always interesting, because we got some Death Stranding ones in the first game. We got some God of War ones in Forbidden West. So yeah, all of that is just obviously things that I'm very, very excited about. I think the mic still is picking me up. I wanted to mute my audio for a second on my computer, just so I want to check something here. I don't want the clicky noises going through. But anyway, what are you guys, what's everybody up to as far as, were you able to get your hands on a PS5? Was that something that is still kind of difficult for people beyond, obviously I know price point is always a thing, because they're not cheap. But that's my one. Yeah, when I heard that it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive, it was incredibly bittersweet. I was very excited to see what the system could really be capable of, and really letting the leash off of its capabilities, but also just knowing what's going on, and how challenging it's been, and also how that could limit the success of the DLC. I hope it doesn't, but I could totally see that happening. Yep, preparing for the DLC. That is, I'll probably hop on here after this and do a little bit of that myself, because it was described to us by Ben McCaw as end game content. So this is like probably kitty gloves are off. I remember when we got the Frozen Wilds, and just like that first benchmark of what to expect, and the first thing you run into is a Scorcher, and if you can't make it past the Scorcher, it was a great indicator of like, you're not ready for this, go back, try again. Because that's exactly kind of what it was. You need something like that. So I wonder what the first, like I said, I haven't played any yet, so I wonder what the first kind of like thing you're going to run into. We saw Aloy kind of getting shot down by whatever kind of technology that was, and kind of falling into the burning shores. So I'm sure that that's going to be kind of our intro into meeting Seika and things like that. But along with that, it's going to be, I wonder what the first new machine we're going to run into is, because it's a DLC. I'm sure we're getting new machines, and what they're going to be based off of. I said Whale Shark would be one that I'm really interested in. Maybe bring back an old one from Zero Dawn, like maybe just like a souped up version of a Sawtooth or a Trampler, I think would be really cool, because I was a big fan of both of those machines in the first game. Along with that, oh man, I'm trying to wonder what dinosaurs they haven't really tackled yet, or what kind of animals they haven't really jumped on yet, because they've done a lot of them. They've really tackled a wide range of animal morphologies. And I know some people are hoping for more insectoid machines. However, I think reading from the Zero Dawn game guide and kind of what their impressions were there, they really wanted the Pharaoh machines to have more of an insect vibe, so they would not only look different but feel different and play different from all of Gaia and Hephaestus's machines. Hannah G, Fireclaws, they would be right at home, right? You know, they were born to the lava. They know it. They love it. That is definitely something. Man. Yeah, they're still my toughest machine to date. Like, I would face a Slaughter Spine down 10 out of 10 times before doing a Fireclaw. And maybe it's just like back of my head Frozen Wilds trauma, but Thomas says a new mount, the Water Wing we're getting, but I would also love a new land mount. I would love to be able to mount some machines that we haven't to in the past, like being able to get on the back of a Ravager and use the gun would be insane. Obviously, I think a lot of people would love to fly a Stormbird. Not sure if that will ever happen, but I'm sure that's on some people's short list. A new land, as far as, we're getting one settlement already, but I am interested to see how much of that we get. Because once again, I'm trying to also think back into how they addressed the first DLC, because I'm sure that whether they try to or not, there will be some similarities there, just because you have this similar writing staff and that went off really well. As far as the Frozen Wilds go, you really had one principal new settlement, and then you had the kind of the big wide sweeping area, but there weren't a lot of people populating it outside of that main settlement. You got a new hunting ground, so I'm wondering if we might get one of those. How they would loop that into the canon is a little bit tricky. They've been flexible with it in the past, as far as like, these are associated with the Hunter's Lodge, these are not associated with the Hunter's Lodge. So I wonder if maybe we'll get some more salvage contracts, like we got in Forbidden West. Those were interesting, as long as they pay off with some. Oh man, I'm getting excited about thinking about all the new data points. Once you read them all, you're always feeling like you're like one key clue away from understanding the whole puzzle. And for me, that's one of the things that gets me to come back to Horizon over and over and over again. A land mount. Yeah, sorry, not just a new land, but yeah, a land mount. And also the thing about the whale shark, I think that'd be a really cool way to almost make an aquatic version of a tall neck. Like if you had to swim into the mouth and maneuver your way through the insides of its purification mechanisms to kind of get a good layout of what's in the ocean at that period of time, I think would be really, really cool. But until it happens, I'll just keep standing here on my soapbox and hoping for it. So I know a lot of people are preparing for the DLC. What does that mean for you? Does that mean getting more coils and gear? Is it just getting reacclimated with the mechanics? Because I know when you're going back and forth from different games, it can be tricky. I remember when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima a lot and going back into Horizon just for game capture was particularly challenging with the way my buttons were laid out. So I would love to hear exactly what you guys are thinking as far as your DLC prep work goes. I'll probably hop on and do a couple arenas just to get my mindset back into less of collecting and finding things, but going forward and kind of just getting reacclimated and just proficient again with everything. Unlocking other skills are really, really important. I wonder what new skills are going to come with the DLC. That was something that happened in the Frozen Wilds. They weren't too game-changing in the Frozen Wilds, but we did get some really nice quality of life improvement perks, which I'm always about too. Like, you got the ability to, upgrade your spears. That was something that came with that. You got the ability to grab resources from a mount. You didn't have to dismount and do that. So maybe, those might seem mundane to some people, but when you are spending hundreds of hours in the game like I am, those kind of things can really just be such a nice breath of fresh air for me personally. um, and outside of that, understanding how Aloy is, and like I said, if you're watching this, like I said, there's no like in-game spoilers, but I will be talking about what I saw in the launch trailer, and so spoilers ahead for that in a second. Um, Seeing how Aloy is going to get her hands on the Zenith tech is interesting to me. Like, will you be able to go back to the base within the story? Is that something that it's going to require you to do to kind of go back and forth from the main map to the new map, or will it be all kind of self-contained? I think beta will probably be a big part of that. We kind of saw Alva as a hologram, so her presence will be felt in this if she's not there in person. So there's just so many things to talk about. And I can't wait to do a spoiler stream when I finish, because those are always really fun. Underwater combat would be interesting. Yeah, I understand why they probably shied away from that in the beginning, because there's been very few games where I've seen them do, and them just video games in general, do water combat in a way that makes it exciting and not just a chore or something that you have to get into or get through. Like, I loved The Witcher 3, but when you're swimming and going underwater and you just got your little crossbow and shooting things, it's just kind of like, it's a hassle at that point. So if you can find some way to make underwater combat really engaging and different and not clunky, then I'm all for that. All that stuff is I'm absolutely game for. As far as the new mechanics go with the grappling, there's still a lot of the game that I feel like I didn't have to take advantage of. I don't play on ultra hard difficulty because I want to make sure, like, I play on normal. I feel like for me that's a appropriate challenge, and also will allow me to complete the game in a timely manner so I can start making content about it and making videos about things. But like, I never felt the need, playing on normal at least, to use food a lot. So I know there's a whole mechanic taking place there that I never really took advantage of. I might need to now. I'm wondering if just the pace of the game will force you to just kind of be a little bit more diligent in your prep work. Excuse me. Along with that, wondering if maybe there's new element types or if they've revamped them at all. I know plasma has been pretty divisive for people as far as like, should I use it? Shock is still really good. Just all those things, and the side of game development that I have no idea about. But interesting to see kind of what they've come up with for this, and how exactly the Horus fight is going to work, because you can't have it be like anything else we've ever done before, because the machine is like nothing we've ever dealt with before. You're talking about a machine that will learn what you're trying to do and strategize against you, right? That's a huge thing about the Pharaoh Swarm. You have a machine that can create other Pharaoh machines. You have a machine that can potentially use biomass conversion tech. So you have nanohaze to have to deal with, along with just the colossal strength and size of the thing. There's a reason why Operation Enduring Victory had such a hard time dealing with them. And sometimes people it's like, why didn't they use nukes? Well, they did. Nuclear weapons were used against the Swarm during Operation Enduring Victory. They kind of had to weigh their options between how much damage do you do to the planet in the process to kind of, would those things set Zero Dawn back? But they were used, and the Pharaoh Swarm still succeeded. So it's going to have to be before it really gets rolling, just kind of like how it ended in Zero Dawn, where you have the Pharaoh Swarm getting awoken again, but they didn't really get a chance to fully activate before Aloy was able to shut them all down again. And I think you are going to have to act immensely quickly if you don't want the world to end again. Um, but that's kind of a point where maybe we'll get more metal flowers here, and potentially if they awaken it, we might get some more post kind of like main quest for the DLC dealing with like awoken pharaoh machines, right? Because I remember in the Frozen Wilds, like after you deal with Cauldron Epsilon, there's still a quest line where you have to take out the remaining fire claws that escaped from the cauldron. So I wouldn't be surprised if after the Horus is awoken, even if you take it out, like you got to clean up the mess. There are still pharaoh machines out there, and if you don't want them just killing everything, then you need to go after them very quickly, because they will just continue killing and feeding and killing and feeding until the Earth is gone again. So, yeah, it's so much speculation, and we are so close. It is right on the edge. But yeah, I'm probably gonna keep streaming here for another maybe 20-ish minutes or something like that. But yeah, what questions do you guys have? What do you guys want to share? It's been a second since we've got a chance to chat across the board. I'm looking forward to getting into all the new material and making videos about burning shores and trying to strike that balance of staying away from being, because even though sometimes it's inevitable, I do try to make the thumbnails and titles as less spoilery as possible for those who are still playing through the game. I remember when I made the video on the main antagonist that was revealed at the end of Forbidden West. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And just kind of trying to be like, how do you make a good thumbnail while simultaneously not ruining everything for everyone? So I will try my best. If the Horus is being controlled by Hephaestus, would it use biomass conversion because it's still in its programming to not hurt the planet? That's an interesting question. Yeah, because even though Hephaestus doesn't like people, at least from what we understand right now, it's still in its own mind, it was serving the goals of Zero Dawn, right? It's making machines, it's protecting machines to keep fulfilling the purpose. Now, that might have changed with how it's evolved over time, and especially how it resisted joining again with Gaia. I don't think it is out to destroy the world. I think it's definitely out to destroy humans. I think it would use its biomass conversion, especially on people, if it does have that capability. I think it does, but there is a little bit of conflicting lore concerning the Horus, where in the data point Band to Sea incident, there is eyewitness testimony of a Horus feeding off of a pod of endangered dolphins in the Band to Sea. But then when you look at the actual data point, FASBOR7 Horus, that you find in the Pharaoh headquarters, it says that it's fueled by fellow chariot line machines. So I am interested to see and to really get a concrete answer concerning how exactly it's going to stay operational. But to get back to the root of your question, I think it will probably use biomass conversion, because at this point, I think the ends probably justify the means for Hephaestus. It's been purged by Aloy once out of the Epsilon Cauldron. It's been able to live within the Cauldron network to become incredibly elusive. It has already programmed itself to be unaffected by alpha clearance, and probably now, I would say, if it hasn't already, it's working on purging itself of omega clearance now that it's had to deal with it, and would have been captured for longer if not for the events that transpired in Cauldron Gemini. So yeah, it's, I would say that if I were betting, we were probably going to see some nano haze, which is one thing that we haven't seen or we didn't see with the Pharaoh machines too much in Zero Dawn. Mostly, I think, due to the limitation of the system. But now that we're operating on a PS5 and what we saw with the nanotech already in Forbidden West and the Zenith tech, I think we were probably going to see more biomass conversion in this game. But yeah, that's a really good question, Hannah. Hephaestus is by far and away now like the biggest wild card that is on the board already. I know some people are maybe think of Vast Silver or Nemesis, but I haven't. I don't really consider them as active participants just yet. Obviously, have impacted the present state of the world and the past state of the world in various ways, but as far as like the pieces that are on the board now, Hephaestus, I think, is probably the most dangerous one. But judging by some of the dialogue we got at the end of Forbidden West, there might be a workaround to either creating machines without Hephaestus's help or essentially building a new Hephaestus from scratch, which I think that could be a really good role for beta moving forward, especially to get as much on your side before the next great threat arrives in Horizon 3. So yeah, all that stuff is on the table, and I would expect hopefully they bring back the Deathbringer as well, because we did get some scarabs in Forbidden West. We're obviously getting Horus and Burning Shores. I would love to see some more FSP5 Kopesh chariot line models on the battlefield as well, because those were pretty intimidating in Zero Dawn. And hopefully they can be a little bit more, I don't want to say mobile, but I know kind of reading through interviews and hearing interviews online that they had to kind of design with the limitations of the time the Deathbringer to kind of just be an essentially stationary, basically like Jack in the Box of goodies that just dealt you death, because it wasn't going to move around that much. It wasn't particularly fast, but it would have all these different mechanics that you had to deal with, whether it was the rockets or the machine guns or the cores that would come up when it's vulnerable, and all those things. So how they would change things for that machine in Forbidden West to be something I'd be interested in. Let's see what else we got into here. I'm not sure. I know some people may think that we might get some more Tenakth in this DLC. I think we might. Probably not as much as you might think, because we're kind of beyond the clan lands. But one thing that may give credence to that argument is when you are in Zero Dawn and you are talking to Warden Geneva in Sunstone Rock, she does say that the Tenakth, at least from her testimony, and this just could have been retconned for the sake of the second game, but she did say that they came from the south. So a further southern kind of offshoot Tenakth people could be interesting. And there were also some that, at least in my mind, weren't really addressed as far as what you saw in the Forbidden West data point, which is one of my all-time favorite data points in Zero Dawn, because it describes all these testimonials from kind of like different tribes members through Karja records, kind of just seeing what they saw when they went to the Forbidden West. People like digging holes and then burying them immediately, and children whose faces were white as ash, and people sailing long dark boats along the coast. So how many of those things that we're going to get to see or kind of connect the dots? Because obviously some of them you're like, okay, maybe those were like Sky Clan Tenakth or Desert Clan or things like that, but just there's still room to grow as far as stuff we can see in the Forbidden West. The Zenith weapon, I hope you can use it after the battle. Yes. Or I hope it's not just like a heavy weapon that you can pick up during the battle, like a disc launcher or a Ravager gun or something like that, because that would be really interesting. Potentially game-breaking, but they've been able to adjust things after the fact. I remember when the Shield Weaver armor came out for Zero Dawn and just remembering how just OP it was at launch. It was just it made you just so strong that they had to go in and be like, okay, let's nerf this thing. But beyond that, I'm sure that they will be taking advice and they will be taking results as far as whatever analytics they're getting into consideration and make adjustments there. But I'm with you. If we get a weapon, I want to keep the weapon. You know, it always bummed me out that I think it was called a fire launcher. It was also in Zero Dawn. It was like that Karja weapon that would just launch rocket arrows. Like, I would love something like that in a little bit more of a permanent capacity, especially now that we have, you know, the weapons that we do. Bring back something like that, or something that just hits a little bit harder that maybe just burns through a ton of resources or is slow. But, you know, just the more options you can give us to dive into the game, I think is always great. Got about a little less than 15 minutes. I'd say maybe 10 more minutes as far as this. Kind of like I said, this is going to be a pretty brief live stream. I know some people are playing the game as we speak in different parts of the world or looking at that kind of footage right now. But for those who wanted to avoid spoilers, this stream is here for you, here for us to kind of bide our time as we kind of get through this, or if you're just at work or you're not able to play the game right now. But overall, yeah, I am super excited. I wonder if we're gonna get, I really do want to know what cradle the Quen come from, and I'm not sure if they would know, because that technology might be beyond the focuses they have now. But I'm also kind of suspicious to the fact that, especially with kind of how the legacy is gathered, interpreted, and then given back to the people, I wouldn't be surprised if overseers above typical diviners have actually found newer focuses and hoard that knowledge for themselves, where most diviners like Alva have a lesser understanding of the ancient world because their focuses kind of top out at the early 2050s, late 2040s, when Ted Faro is still a hero of humanity and everything like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was just a massive cover up at the top and the lead overseer or a number of higher ups in that chain of command have, better focuses than your typical diviner does. Would the melee be better? I think they are. I think they're constantly trying to integrate that a little bit more, making it more worthwhile to engage the machine in hand-to-hand combat. Because I know kind of the approach that they took in the beginning was your ranged combat is still going to be what you want to do for the machines, but really try to reward you for becoming good at melee combat for dealing with human combatants. So if you could kind of find a healthy medium between, because I especially know people who make builds or do speed runs and things like that, and trying to find the most efficient things to get objectives done and machines defeated. Rarely ever is it a melee build. I would say that's one that they are all still like, yeah, you can play the game a ton of different ways, but melee just is still not effective against machines. So finding a way to integrate that a little bit more seems to be the attempt they're making with this more acrobatic combat with those maneuvers. So hopefully that makes at least closing the distance and engaging with machines a little bit more worthwhile. It will pay off an investment to take the risk, right? Because if you're getting that close anyway, you are playing a riskier play style. You're in range of a lot of different attacks depending on the machine that you're dealing with. So if you're going to add more melee options, they do need to be worth the risk of you engaging the machine at such close range and getting out from behind cover and using some of your more powerful melee weapons. But I'm always up for more interesting melee combat as well. I think they took a huge step in the right direction for Forbidden West, especially having gone back more recently and played Zero Dawn a little bit. It has come a long way in a positive fashion, but it still has room to grow. and improve. So for me, I think that is kind of the next evolution for what I want to see there, is just maybe, how would you even do that? Maybe being able to craft different spearheads or things like that deal better tear damage or can remove plasteel better, or maybe have a chance of, triggering an acid effect or a plasma effect. Just, I'm sure that they'll brainstorm it and try to work on those things. But beyond that, I'm hopeful, even though I don't think it's going to be the case. I would love this to be the first of a few DLCs, but if their pattern of behavior in the past, with Frozen Wilds being the only DLC for Zero Dawn, this will probably be the only DLC for Forbidden West, which does make me sad, but they are working on different projects. I do wonder how that multiplayer game is going to turn out. I hope it turns out really good, because one of the only things that I don't like about Horizon is the fact that I can't play with any community members or hop on a hunt with people or something like that. As much as I love the single player aspect of the game, it's, obviously you want to be able to play with folks and have that joy and fun together. So I'd love a more Monster Hunter-y kind of experience. Right? Yeah, Hannah, just like the more DLCs, the better. Just shut up and take my money. That's my philosophy when it comes down to all the DLC stuff. It's just the more Horizon we can get. And I know some people think less is more. For the most part, when it comes to Horizon, I'm a big fan of more is more. I want more answers. I want more mysteries. I want more machines, more tactics, more places, more tribes. Because then we get to learn all kinds of stuff. We still don't know about that area near the Utaru. Are you talking about the dam or the castle, kind of like in the Daunt? Because I would be interested if they activate some of those areas that kind of seem like they were left on the cutting room floor for Forbidden West. Because you see remnants of that in Zero Dawn too. Like there's gates that kind of go to, Banuk lands potentially, and the claim potentially that they never got to flesh out. You have that big Karja fortress that people have spotted in the Daunt. You have the Hoover Dam, which a lot of people think is the jumping off point to where Aloy needs to go to the Forbidden West if the maps are attached. Yeah, those mysteries still exist. Yes, the building on the cliffs. Yeah, so that same kind of Karja fortress that's out there. That could have been a whole other base of operations, because the Karja really messed up the Utaru in the Red Raids. Or for them, they refer to that time as the Buried Years. But, I would love them to not only continue to build on new stuff, but yeah, I'd love for them to kind of pay off some things that maybe they didn't get to in the first go round. And that would also kind of make the existing map a little bit more interesting and give us more things to do in the world that you've already spent so much time building. So I'm all for that. All right, guys, we got about 5 minutes, and then I think I'm going to allow myself to start fully rolling on the DLC hype train, watch some footage, see what's going on as far as, probably spoiling myself a little bit, but I did not want to accidentally spoil anything here. So the best way I can do that is just not knowing anything. So it's, for as much as I pride myself for knowing a decent amount about Horizon, now there is quite a bit of the population who is more aware than I am, which is also really exciting. We're all learning this new stuff together and seeing these new characters like Seika and Admiral Garrett and whoever the enemy is that is being referred to in the launch trailer. Let's see. I would really like more info on Rost's time in the Forbidden West. I could not agree with you more. Whether that's more data points, a DLC, heck, I'll even just take some NPC dialogue about some crazed Nora hunter that came here decades ago and slew like a whole camp of people to get to this one person, like things like that. I'm with you. I honestly would love another arc of Horizon comics that were totally focused on that story. I think that would be my top tier wish list for things that I would like to see moving forward for the game. Because yeah, that's one. And I know some people like leave it to the imagination, but once again, like I said, more is more for me. I want to know more details. So if we could get a comic about that, so we could actually see those events happen from Rost's perspective, I think that would be obviously tragic, but also incredibly cool. Because yeah, you're talking about somebody who is so devout in their beliefs in Allmother and the culture of the Nora, and despite all that, asked for this really unspeakable right so that way he could seek vengeance for his own family and the families of so many who were affected by those Outlanders. Yeah, that would be a great story. I'm with you. Yeah, because Rost, despite only being in the game for a very short amount of time, impact is felt substantially across all manner of different interactions. Now playing through Zero Dawn again and hearing what he says to Aloy and how those things still echo through not only Zero Dawn but also Forbidden West. That whole scene shared between Beta and Aloy, considering like why is Beta so different, and the fact that it's that battle of nature versus nurture, right? Even though nature-wise both Aloy and Beta are identical to Elizabeth, they are all very different people. Aloy had the same benefit that Elizabeth had in having a very formative figure in their young life push that narrative of, yes, you're very talented, but what are you going to do for the people around you with that talent? Where Beta was just trying to essentially survive. She's just on a spaceship with a bunch of some of the most selfish people to ever exist on planet Earth. Verging on, got a couple sociopaths on board. So none of those things, I'm sure, helped her. So seeing what her growth is like if Beta's taking kind of a role in the DLC would be cool as well. But yeah, I am so ready. I am beyond ready for the DLC, everything that is coming from it, how it sets up the next game, right? Because that's the thing with DLC, you have to have something be very impactful, but also I'm not sure how much you want the story to hang on this crux of what happened in the DLC opposed to the base game, right? You can obviously have some hints to it and things that happened, but you're kind of operating off of the assumption that it's a DLC. It shouldn't be essential to the story of Horizon, but you still need to make it feel very important. And I think they've done that in the past. So yeah, it's going to be something else. I'm wondering if it's going to be kind of more God of War-esque or Shadow of the Colossus when it comes to tackling that Horus, because any kind of mechanics that we've used previously, I just don't think the run, roll, concentration, shoot the vulnerable points is going to be where they go for that combat. And I don't think it'd be very satisfying either, personally. I don't. And I'm wondering, because it's so different from anything they've done in the past, how they're going to address it. It's going to be really... it's going to be interesting. Only hours away now. So yeah, final thoughts from everybody before we close out. I do appreciate you folks taking the time to give this short Q&A a watch. We will be having more of these in the future. I know the timing of this is a little bit interesting as far as a weekday morning, but I did want to squeeze in this last little final thoughts and opinions before I actually get a chance to play the game, because it will be a little bit before you hear from me, because I will just be knee deep in completing the DLC, as I don't want to say as quickly as possible, because I don't just go story. I try to play as organically as possible, but in that, I am on a mission to get this thing done, so that way we can start analyzing and really getting into the deep dives, right? This first playthrough is very much surface, taking what you can get and kind of making your first thoughts on that. But the real work comes afterwards, finding all the data points, analyzing them, see how they connect to each other, finding where all these pieces fit in, bits of dialogue and cutscenes and all manner of things like that still need to happen. So, and they're all happening very soon. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate you stopping in, and Hannah and everybody else who's kind of popped in and out in our chat. But yeah, I hope that you all have some wonderful, happy hunting in your future. And if you are waiting to see kind of what happens next, I will be doing my very best to bring you as many important details as possible for those of you who may not be able to play but still want to know what's going to happen. I will try to avoid spoilery things as much as I can. But as you know, it's when you're digging into the lore, you're trying to find out everything. But anyway, I'm rambling now because that's what I do when I'm excited and nervous and ready for something really, really cool to happen, like I'm sure all of us are here. But anyway, like I said, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time as always, and I'm glad that we got to check the audio. We're going to be stepping that up, which I've always felt is a little bit of the weaker point as far as the content that I make. And hopefully we're just going to continue leveling up as our community grows. And I really appreciate everybody's time. But as always, thanks for watching. Keep questing. And I will see all of you in the Burning Shores. So have a great day and enjoy. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Have a good one, everybody.